A man climbed into a lion enclosure, drunk, smiling, and tried to shake their hands. A woman reached toward a 500-pound tiger. The only reason she still has a hand is because she pulled back just in time. 12 people, 12 moments caught on camera. Each one looked at a barrier, a warning sign, or a predator, and decided the rules didn't apply to them. Some walked away, some didn't. One never walked away at all. This is what happens when humans forget, even for just 1 second, that wild animals are exactly that, wild. The Painted Dog Enclosure Fall in Pittsburgh. On the morning of November 4th, 2012, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania felt calm and peaceful. The air carried that soft smell of autumn, and the trees were glowing with color. The city's zoo and aquarium was the perfect place for families to spend the day. That morning, the Derkosh family, Jason, Elizabeth, and their 2-year-old son Maddox, walked through the gates, excited for a day out. Maddox was full of energy, winning smiles from everyone around him with his curiosity. He held tightly onto the railing with his tiny hands, watching the animals with wide eyes. He laughed at the giraffes and the penguins and pointed excitedly toward the lions. As the family made their way to the African painted dog enclosure, Elizabeth lifted her son up onto the railing so he could get a better look. It was such a small, loving gesture, but in the very next second, everything changed. Maddox lost his balance and fell almost 14 feet down into the enclosure below. The safety net that was meant to catch him could not hold his weight, and he landed hard, directly on the ground. The moment the pack of painted dogs spotted him, their instincts took over. Within seconds, they lunged at him with sharp jaws and pointed teeth, attacking his head, his neck, and his body. Screams filled the air. Staff rushed in with fire extinguishers. Police arrived, but nothing could stop the dogs in time. Within minutes, it was already too late. Zoo staff and first responders pulled Maddox out, but the injuries were too severe. He died from massive blood loss. For the very first time in over 100 years, the zoo was facing a tragedy like this. And it forced everyone to ask hard questions about safety, about enclosure design, and about how something so devastating could have happened in just a few seconds. The tiger enclosure failure. It was supposed to be a peaceful Sunday visit, nothing more. In a quiet, fertile valley in South Africa, the weather was warm and pleasant. Daniel Thatcher's farmhouse sat surrounded by vineyards, peaceful and picture-perfect. Daniel had come all the way from Texas, hoping to build a calm, simple life here. But his idea of pets was anything but ordinary. No dogs, no horses. Instead, he kept zebras, monkeys, an old cheetah, and a massive Bengal tiger named Rocca. That Sunday, the Maboya family came to visit the farm. As usual, the children were busy taking photos near the animals, laughing, having fun, and everything felt completely safe. Rocca lay stretched out in the sun, calm, relaxed, seemingly harmless. But that calmness in a wild animal is nothing more than an illusion, and it can disappear in an instant. As Brian leaned in slightly to get a better photo, Rocca suddenly rose to his feet. What happened next took only a few seconds. One quick leap, the sharp sound of iron latches, and the entire mood of the farm changed in a heartbeat. Screams broke out. People ran, desperate to help, but it was already too late. One small, careless moment took an innocent life that day and shattered a family's entire world forever. The Lion's Gate. Malfunction. December 30th, 2018. The Conservation Center in Burlington, North Carolina felt calm and quiet, just like any other day. More than 80 exotic animals lived there, mostly lions, tigers, and leopards, all cared for with love and dedication. The place stood for education, conservation, and hope, drawing in tourists and animal lovers from everywhere. 22-year-old Alexandra Black, a graduate in animal behavior from Indiana University, was completing her training at the center, chasing a dream she had worked toward her entire life. That morning, she joined the care team for the routine cleaning of a lion's enclosure. Nothing unusual, just another day at work. Inside the cage was a 14-year-old male lion named Mai, over 225 kilograms of raw power, heavy built, and a history of neglect before he came to the center. Everyone followed the usual safety steps, but there was one small detail nobody caught in time. A play ball had been left inside the enclosure, and it was quietly blocking the gate from closing all the way. As Alexandra worked nearby, completely unaware, Mai noticed the gap. He noticed the open gate, and driven purely by instinct, he stepped out. In a single moment, everything changed. He lunged straight at her, seizing her leg first. The team tried everything, shouting, spraying water, anything to make him let go. But Mai would not stop. He turned toward her neck. Alexandra fought back with everything she had left in her, but there was no way to overpower him. Within minutes, the injuries were already fatal. She was gone. The team made an emergency call, and officials rushed in to bring Mai under control. When the investigation was over, they found the deep wounds, the attack marks, and eventually, the answer. One misplaced ball, one tiny detail, missed for just a moment, and it cost a young woman her entire future. The boy who tried to pet a panda. When you hear the word panda, you think of something soft, cuddly, like a giant teddy bear. But what one boy did in 2016 at a zoo in Nanchang, China was not cute at all. It was reckless, and it almost cost him his life. The boy's name was Chen. Inside the zoo lived a panda named Mai Ling, quietly resting in her enclosure, minding her own business. Most people who walked by just took a photo and moved on. But Chen wanted more than a photo. He climbed over the fence, walked right up to the panda, and started touching her like she was some kind of stuffed toy. The second Mai Ling woke up, everything changed. In less than a second, she knocked Chen flat on the ground and pinned him down with her full weight. For those few seconds, Chen could not even understand what was happening to him. Somehow he managed to break free and run. And by pure luck, he walked away without any serious injuries. Later, the real reason came out. He had done it all just to impress two girls watching nearby. Think about that for a second. One moment of showing off in front of a panda, and it could have cost him his life forever. The man who walked into the lion's den. Taipei, Taiwan, 2004. What happened that day at the city zoo was not an accident. It was not a dare. It was something far stranger than either. A man named Chang Chong-ho climbed over the barrier and dropped himself straight into the lion enclosure. Then he turned to face the lions and began shouting at them. He told the lions that Jesus would save them. In his mind, he believed he was living out the old Bible story of Daniel in the lion's den. At first, the lions simply ignored him, but the man grew bolder. He stepped closer, and that was the moment everything changed. The lions lunged at his hand and tore through his clothes before zoo staff could even react. Workers rushed in with water hoses and tranquilizers to force the lions back, and the man was pulled out just in time. Miraculously, his injuries were minor. Once again, timing played a huge role that day. The lions had just been fed. It later came out that Chang was going through a serious mental health crisis, completely cut off from the reality of what he was walking into. But whether it was faith, confusion, or sheer luck that kept him alive, one thing is certain. Those lions did not have to show him mercy, and the next person who tries something like this may not walk away so lucky. The face that was torn away. People often look at chimpanzees and see something familiar, something almost human. Smart eyes, expressive faces, playful little habits. It is easy to forget what they are truly capable of underneath all that charm. Charla Nash learned that lesson in the most painful way possible. On the 16th of February 2009, Charla visited her friend Sandra's home. Sandra had raised a chimpanzee named Travis since he was a baby, caring for him like her own son. Travis had even appeared in movies and television ads. Everyone believed he was a gentle, well-trained animal, but that day, something inside him snapped. When Charla arrived, she found Travis attacking Sandra. Without a second thought, she rushed in and fought to pull him off, hitting him again and again. For a brief moment, it worked. Travis let go of Sandra, then he turned toward Charla. What happened next is something words can barely describe. Travis tore into her face with such force that her eyes, her nose, and her ears were destroyed. He bit through her hand so violently that she lost her fingers. By the time police arrived, Charla was lying on the floor, completely soaked in blood. Doctors managed to save her life, but they could not save her face. After months of treatment, she went through a full face transplant. Today, Charla speaks openly about what happened to her. Not out of anger, but as a warning to others. No matter how long you raise a wild animal, no matter how much love you give it, you can never fully remove the wild from inside it. Travis proved that in the worst way possible. And Charla carries that proof with her every single day. the selfie that almost cost an arm. In 2019, at Wildlife World Zoo in Litchfield Park, Arizona, a woman in her 30s made a choice that almost cost her arm. She crossed the safety barrier, not by accident, not by mistake. She deliberately stepped past the barrier at the jaguar enclosure just to get a closer photo. The jaguar did not wait for permission. In one quick move, it reached through the fence and sank its claws deep into her arm. She screamed. People around her panicked. And in that moment, with the jaguar's grip locked onto her, there was nothing she could do to save herself. Then a bystander named Adam Wilkerson did something brave. He grabbed a water bottle and used it to distract the jaguar, pulling its attention away just long enough for it to let her go. She was rushed to a nearby hospital, where doctors gave her several stitches for a deep cut on her left forearm. The fire department later confirmed the truth plainly. She had crossed the barrier herself. She put herself in that position, and she was lucky that a stranger nearby had the quick thinking to save her. The jaguar did nothing wrong. It was simply staying in its own space. She was the one who crossed the line, literally, for one selfie. That is all it was worth to her, almost her entire arm. The drunk swim into monkey territory. This next moment is one of the most foolish and dangerous things a person can do inside a zoo. A drunk man visited Serra Cobra Zoo in São Paulo, Brazil, and he did not just walk in normally. He showed up shirtless and without shoes. After climbing over a fence, he jumped into the water surrounding the spider monkey's enclosure and swam across it. As he tried to climb back out, 6 spider monkeys came straight for him. These monkeys turned out to be fiercely territorial. They bit into his arm, his wrist, and his shoulder. The struggle went on for a few minutes, but somehow, with a little help, the man managed to make it back outside the enclosure. The woman who went swimming with polar bears. If you ever feel like going for a swim, please choose a pool, not a polar bear enclosure, because there is a good chance you will end up torn apart either way. A 32-year-old woman decided to jump straight into the polar bear enclosure at the Berlin Zoo. She did not stumble in by accident. She climbed over a fence, then a hedge, then a wall. She knew exactly what she was doing. Luckily for her, the polar bears were not too aggressive that day. But the video shows the woman struggling to get herself back out of the water. Rescue workers tried to distract the polar bears by throwing them food, buying her precious time. Why she decided to go into a polar bear enclosure in the first place is still a mystery to this day. But somehow, against all odds, she survived. Challenging the tigers, shaking hands with lions. One animal you should never approach is a tiger, and you definitely should not try it while drunk. A student at Guwahati Zoo in India decided he wanted to challenge the zoo's tigers. For nearly an hour, he teased the 2 tigers and chased them into their cave. Somehow, against all odds, he escaped completely unharmed. Who knows what could have happened if the tigers had gotten hold of him? But this was not the first time someone had walked straight into the enclosure of a dangerous big cat. Another drunk man once ignored every warning from the crowd and the security staff and jumped straight into the African lion enclosure, all because he wanted to shake their hands. These lions were used to being around people and they could have attacked him at any moment. Fortunately, they did not. Zoo staff eventually managed to chase the lions away and pull the man to safety. Trespassing into chaos. Some people walk into danger knowing exactly what they are doing. Others stumble into it without any idea of what is about to happen. João Leite de Santos belonged firmly to the second group. In 2011, this mechanic from São Paulo, Brazil, visited Sorocaba Zoo after a heavy night of drinking. By his own admission, he remembered nothing of what happened next. But the security camera remembered everything. It showed him climbing over the enclosure fence, dropping down into the pond below and swimming straight toward a group of spider monkeys. Now here is something most people do not know about spider monkeys. They are not friendly. They are not curious little creatures looking to say hello. They are fiercely territorial animals, and they treat any uninvited stranger in their space as a direct threat. And João was very much uninvited. As he swam closer, the monkeys began moving toward him. For a brief second, it might have looked almost harmless. Then, without warning, one of them clamped down hard on his wrist. Another went straight for his shoulder and arm. The attack was fast, and it was brutal. In that moment, João suddenly understood the full weight of what he had done. He turned around and swam desperately back toward the fence. where zoo staff pulled him out of the water. His wounds were serious enough that he had to be hospitalized. Police later charged him with negligence. He said he could not remember a single moment of that night, but his body remembered every second of it. Roses for a lion, the obsession that wouldn't quit. Most people you have seen so far acted without thinking, driven by impulse or plain foolishness, a bad decision made in a single reckless second. But this story is different. This one was planned, down to every last detail. At the Bronx Zoo in New York City, a woman showed up dressed in a tight red dress, a brassy blonde wig, and carrying a bouquet of roses in her arms, like she was headed to meet someone she loved. She climbed over the barrier and made her way as close as she possibly could to the lion enclosure, throwing $100 bills toward the lion and declaring her love for him out loud for everyone to hear. But here is where the story takes an even stranger turn. This was not her first time doing this. Back in 2019, a woman named Maya Autry had done the exact same thing at the exact same zoo. She was charged with criminal trespassing and banned from ever stepping foot on the property again. So this time, she came back in disguise. The blonde wig was not just a costume, it was her plan to slip past security unnoticed and reach the animal she truly believed she shared a connection with. A zoo spokesperson later confirmed that a deep trench was the only thing standing between her and the lions that day, the one thing that kept her from getting any closer. But wildlife expert Ron McGill said it plainly, and it is worth remembering. That animal is still wild. It does not know her. It does not love her back, and it could have killed her without a second of hesitation. No disguise changes that. No bouquet of roses changes that either. And that's it. 12 people, 12 fences, and 12 moments where one bad decision almost became the last one they ever made. The animals weren't the villains here. They were just being exactly what they've always been, wild. The fences aren't there to ruin your photo. They're there because someone already learned this lesson the hard way. So next time you're standing in front of an enclosure, remember these 12 names and remember why that line is there. If this kept you hooked, hit like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments which moment shocked you the most. See you in the next one.